Why should Tibet be a part of India and not China? And why is Beijing's claim to the Holy Land simply incorrect? Let me explain. This is a historical event. This is how Tibet looked like in 1944. See that large chunk at the top left? That is Tibet. Now look at the same map, but a few decades later. In 1960, that same region was a part of China. India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, is very fond of Tibet. He visited the region in 1949. He even invited the Tibetan leader to come to India. Beijing blames India for harboring the Dalai Lama. They blame India for supporting Tibetan separatism. But these are baseless claims. The Dalai Lama is a religious leader, cannot and has not called for an independent Tibet. His current political goal is autonomy within the framework of the Chinese constitution. And this is what India supports. How did this happen? Through military aggression and deceit. In 1949, when the Communist Party of China took over, they found themselves in a peculiar situation. They had no access to this region, Tibet. Back then, Tibet was a monarchy. It had its own king, its own prime minister, its own parliament. Now this claim ignores all historical evidence. Tibet may have been a part of China at one point, but that was centuries ago. Between 1913 and 1949, Tibet was a fully fledged monarchy. The Communist Party of China, as we said before, invaded this region in 1950. In fact, it also had a constitution. All of this, by the way, was established with the help of the British. So the Communist Party of China had two options here. Either invade Tibet or seek a peaceful resolution. They chose the former. Between 1950 and 1951, Chinese troops marched into Tibet. They were stopped at the border by the Tibetan army. But this was no match for the Chinese. Soon enough, the Chinese were inside. The Tibetans realized that they were no match for the modern Chinese army. So the Tibetan leadership decided to play for time. They wanted more troops, more weapons. For this, they reached out to India and signed an agreement. China would later call this the 17-point agreement. Tibet, in return, got some financial aid and some modern weapons. This is what the agreement stated. Tibet would enjoy all the freedoms and rights pertaining to a nation. In effect, it was a treaty between two independent states, China and Tibet. This is why the Dalai Lama calls the current standoff an illegal occupation. But Beijing does not agree. According to them, Tibet has always been a part of China. There's no such thing as an independent Tibet. Having said that, Beijing's claims also ignore India's role in the partition of Tibet. So there you have it. A brief history of Tibet's standoff with China and why Beijing's claims to the Holy Land are simply incorrect.